Hello, my name is David and I'm the founder of Q and the host of the Q Show. Today we're here to talk about AI. This is a topic on everyone's minds. It is unprecedented, world-changing, unignorable. We're essentially creating a new consciousness that will be far superior to us. For the first time in human history, which, if we're generous, can go back to 300,000 years, maybe. But we, after those 300,000 years, have found ourselves in charge of this planet, responsible for not just our safety and progression and future, but the safety and future and progression of every other species on this planet and the planet itself. We've had many changes over the history of our species, some of them more notable for us specifically, which is probably the Industrial Revolution, the technological revolution, and then we can go, of course, as far back as the cognitive revolution and the agricultural revolution, all stepping stones to the world we live in today and the lives we live. But every single thing we've ever known is about to change. And that's what I want to talk about today. This will be a little bit of a different tone to my normal episodes because this is really serious. And the reason I feel compelled to talk about this today is because I talk about this a lot. I do a lot of research, read, watch, talk. And I'm very scared, to be frank. I'm very scared of what is coming. And as a certainty almost, and I don't see that in a lot of other people. I just see, and for different reasons, but I just see people aren't paying attention to this as much as they should be. And my hope today is to share a broad look at AI from my experience and my perspective as a way to help you understand the broader conversation and the broader picture and the broader implications of what this technology is going to offer us and take from us. And my hope, of course, is that you hear this and you listen to this and you walk away at least aware of it, at least conscious of what is happening now and what is very likely to happen in the near and distant future. And with that in mind, the ambition, of course, is for you to change your lives, because that's what needs to happen right now. This isn't normal. Right now, you could argue that we are in the belly of the whale. And by the way, the transition from an old world to a new world was happening before AI, but AI just sent it on a whole other trajectory and at a whole other speed. And speed is one thing we will talk about today, because that is one of the reasons I'm doing this, because of the speed at which this technology is accelerating, and therefore the speed at which it's going to change our species, our civilization, our planet. And you need to understand it now, at least from my perspective, in order to give you a chance to be able to navigate the future effectively and safely, to be frank. So I said belly of the whale, and some of you may know that phrase, some of you not, but what the belly of the whale means is that we're kind of in the in-between moment. And when I say that, what I'm referring to is the fact that I think probably up until maybe 2020, and really you could say 2010, 2000, the turn of the century, but we lived in a certain world that played by certain rules. And over the last 10 years, that has changed in so many different ways, for so many different reasons. And of course, there's been some wonderful outcomes of this, some wonderful, wonderful things. But there have been many, many, many negative outcomes, and outcomes that are on the scale at which they daily dictate the path of our species. But nothing like AI. AI is it's an alien. It's a new species we're creating. And again, I mentioned earlier, but for the first time in history, there's going to be another species on this planet that is not just smarter than us, infinitely smarter than us. And actually, maybe that's a good place to jump in now, is to separate the different types of AI, or the levels, as maybe it'll be easier to adjust to. So the three of those, and I'll go through each of them, is general AI, and I say that's a misquote, don't quote me on that, AI, AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. The third one is ASI, artificial superintelligence. And actually, let me say, before I continue this, again, I am not an expert in this. I'm far from that. I'm read up, and I do pay a lot of attention, and I'm very deliberate about learning about this stuff. And I do have broad resources and points of information. So I do try and, as best I can, give myself accurate information. And so that's where all this is coming from. But of course, always double check everything, okay? Okay, AI, AGI, ASI. So AI is where we're at now, LLMs. And essentially it's AI that is designed for a very specific purpose, right? A chatbot that helps you code, or helps you write, or helps a doctor analyze patients, right? These AIs are created with certain sets of information that allow them to expertly solve those problems. Of course, it's not that simple because, for example, the LLMs right now, the large language models, can do a lot of things at once, right? So it's a bit broader than that, but they are designed to do those tasks, and the knowledge they have is within that boundary, right? They cannot think outside of it, at least not yet, and not necessarily. That brings us on to the next stage, which is AGI, artificial general intelligence. That's when the AI gets to a point where it can do everything we can do as humans, all at once. It doesn't need to be designed to do one thing. It can learn and develop skills for literally anything, and of course, excel in those things. That stage, and we'll come back to this timing, my guess, and again, this is just my guess, and this is based on a lot of accumulation of information and insights and perspectives from people in the field and outside of it. My guess is 2027, next year, we'll have AGI, and again, we'll come back to that. The third stage, and this is, if AGI wasn't already going to cause mass disruption, ASI is, I see ASI as, it has the potential that the first person to do it, to succeed in creating ASI, may well control the entire planet. I had a great analogy for ASI to really give a sense of it. So again, AGI can do anything humans can do. ASI can do that times 1 billion, right? And to give you the gauge, if every single person on our planet had Einstein level intelligence, so 8, or the new estimates are like 10 billion people, maybe more on this planet, all those people all had Einstein level intelligence. What we would take a year to do as 10 billion Einsteins on the planet, it would take ASI moments. And just let that sink in, how quickly it can solve problems and make decisions unilaterally at that point. That's terrifying. And well, again, it's a world changer, right? So I mentioned, I use the term, we're in the belly of the beast. We're here in the middle of it, in the in-between, because what has been and what is about to come is two different movies, right? We've got a drama over here, okay, and now we've got a sci-fi movie on the other end of it. So we've slipped genres, we've moved genres in civilization, and while we are seeing pieces of it now, in the next 1, 2, 5, 10 years, you are going to see everything change around it. Now, let's talk about the humans in this. And specifically, I mean the humans creating the AI. Because this, to me, is the almost a bigger concern than the AI itself, which I think says a lot. The short of it is, the future of our species, again, 8 to 10 billion people, is being decided by a handful. And not a handful of ethical, wise, benevolent, caring people. It's people with giant egos and a penchant for being first, ambition of being first, of making the most money, of being the first trillionaire, of being the first quadrillionaire, whatever it is after that. They just want to be number one. They want to be the ones to create it. And huge part thanks to ego, huge part thanks to their ambitions for power and global domination. But as I mentioned before, especially with ASI, I suspect that the first one that gets there wins. And we'll also bring in a little bit of quantum computing later, which will just, the two of those together, it's almost like an off switch for our planet, our species. Terrifying. Okay, so ego, power, driven by ambition, and if you listen to any of the AI leaders talk about their plans and what they're trying to do, especially someone like Sam Altman and Elon, you can feel the lies and the layers of misrepresentation. It's politics at its best. But then in the other conversation, when they're asked about the chance of AI destroying civilization, okay, the AI experts, the people building this, okay, I would, again, I've looked at a lot of different people and opinions, but I would say the average chance that they're suggesting is somewhere between 15 and 25% that AI will destroy our civilization. Think about anything else in life that would pose that risk. I mean, think of a car. If a car was like 15 to 20% risk of every time you go out, they wouldn't exist. They'd be gone. We wouldn't even be entertaining it. This is, again, existential, species level fear. And the second part of this, when we think about these people in charge, is they're not governments, right? They're not bodies of people supposedly looking out for the interests of their people, and I would argue that's certainly not the case in this country right now, which makes it much more terrifying. And that's another level of people that we should be very concerned about when it comes to AI, and not just because of their lack of emphasis on regulation and safety around the building of AI. It's that they will benefit from it in many ways, power, money, and I think one of the ones that, again, I'll talk about a bit later is the surveillance, the control it will give them over the population of people that they look after. So it's not being made by governments. These AIs are being created by private companies, okay? And private companies in different countries, China, America, all over the world. And this, understandably, has created an arms race. And what this means is, again, everyone's trying to get to ASI Because if you get to ASI, you win and you have the power to control everything and everyone. That is the agenda here, okay? I just want to be really clear about that. America gets there first, China gets there first, they have the power. But also, do they? Because those AIs, again, let's say it's Sam Altman or Elon Musk, get there first. We know those people. We understand who they are. We understand their lies. We understand their manipulation. We understand their careless consideration of humanity, of us. We're not even statistics at this point. It used to be one of the common problems with CEOs of big companies is that when it gets so big, people just become numbers on pieces of paper. You lose the identity, and so when you're squashing 3,000 people or 10,000 people like Meta just did, it's just names on a list, right? That's it. It's not people, okay? I feel like they're beyond that. Like humans aren't even they understand the superiority AI will garner them and of course the AI itself. And I believe that they look at us. We are the ants now in comparison to what the future holds. These people do not care about you. There are obviously some exceptions, but I think it would be wise to assume that these people who are driving the biggest companies in the world, in the capitalist country of the world, whose only legal objective is to make as much money as possible, okay? And the only exception I'll offer there quickly is Claude, which I believe is a public benefit corporation. I need to check that, and I'll correct it if I'm wrong, but I believe it's a public benefit corporation, which is the same as Q. And with a PBC, the difference between a C Corp, a traditional corporation, is the C Corp has one legal objective: make as much money as possible, which means they squash you. For example, social media is flooded with ads because it makes the most money, so they legally need to go down that path, right? So it ruins these products and these ideas. Public benefit corporation, yes, they have a legal obligation to make as much money as possible, but that legal obligation must be in line and in step with their benefit they're offering society and the customer. And that's the ambit. So it gives you a bit more freedom to do things ethically in the right way and with values. Okay? Claude is a BBC. The others are not. They are driving straight towards, in fact, IPOs are coming up right now. You have SpaceX, you have OpenAI is coming up, and they just announced one for Claude coming up. And if anyone's interested in that stuff, I mean, ethically, Claude's the one. The other two, I mean, that's just a different story. Anyway, the point of this is that again, when we think about the people creating this, they care about their agendas. They care about their growth, right? Their control, their power, their future. And let me add another little tangent to this. All of those people have bunkers, multiple bunkers in different countries. Some of them, I think it was Peter Thiel, and maybe this is maybe one of the other demons up there, but it was one of them who's just moved to New Zealand to escape America, and him being one of the key orchestrators of the status quo. So that says a lot about, really pay attention to that, okay? What are they doing? How are they living? What are they preparing for? They know this is about to go really, really badly. But they're still going because it's an arms race and they want their power and they want their victory, okay? They also know that someone's going to get there and they want to be the ones to get there first. We do not matter. And I really wanted to drill down on this point because AI again is a scary, scary prospect, and I think it's going to I know it's going to cause so much damage and change. And but the people behind it, the people in control, that's the real worry for me. And the last point I'll give on this is a very specific example, okay? Elon Musk, okay? The richest man in the world, and ketamine riddled, constantly seeing him, wandering around high as a kite. And I laugh because it's just so ridiculous that this man has so much power and that he was able to go and strip US aid. And there's just endless stuff we could talk about Elon. We all know it, right? But not to discount the amazing advances he's offered our species, which I think are valuable. But to be honest, it's not really a weighing up situation. It's like this man is a terrible person, and really, like he is the Lex Luthor of all this. He is the one of them that if there's a decision that says, okay, look, we can advance to ASI, but we need to kill 10 billion, a billion people to do it. Like, they need to go so we can make space for this, right? I don't think he would hesitate, because as far as he sees it, getting rid of those billion people is the opportunity for billions more in the future to not just populate Earth, but populate space, right? Go to Mars and beyond Mars from there on out. That man has rockets. That man has money. That man has Grok AI, which I'll give an example of how awful that is in a moment. He also has thousands of robots already built. Okay? Thousands of them. And he intends, like, as far as his aspirations are noted, he wants to have more robots than there is people on the planet. Okay? I'm just going to quickly bring you back again. AGI, ASI, plus more robots on this planet, like owned and run and dictated by Elon Musk. Not elected, not a good person, not a straight-headed person. And that's a reality, okay? So I really want to drill down on this. Like, when we think about AI, don't just think about AI, think about the people building it. And think about their intentions, and think about what their intentions really mean for you, because they don't care. And another example is data centers, which again I'll talk about a bit later. If you hadn't guessed, this is going to be a bit of a longer episode because there's a lot to cover here, but I really wanted to give a real breadth of the things that I consider as I think about AI, and I think about us, and I think about our future. So I wanted to try and cram in a lot here. So, okay. Moving on, let's talk about some of the ways in which AI has already gone wrong, and eliciting the behaviours that I fear, and that we should all fear. And again, to level set this is just basic AI, right? LLMs, not AGI, not ASI. Okay, so if we think AGI is a kind of an exponential growth from AI, and ASI is an exponential growth from that, kind of gives you a sense. Like, I would argue that the AI we currently have is 0.1%, and that's maybe being generous, of what is to come. Okay, that's where we're at this point. So, some of the examples. And I'll give you one of the most chilling first. And again, I say this with a smile, but it's just because it's so visceral and so real, and also you could have guessed this almost, but it's just like kind of proof in the pudding. So, as a group of scientists did an experiment where they created these digital worlds, where they created these avatars, these people, but these people were current AIs, and specifically there were a couple of others, but the three dominant ones were Grok, OpenAI, and Claude. And they ran this experiment in a couple of ways. What they did, they created these spaces, and they did one simulation for Grok, one for OpenAI, one for Claude. And then they did one with all three of them combined. I'll save that for the end. Okay, so in the Claude one, which I mentioned is a public benefit corporation, and is like their thing is being the ethical AI, and that's what I use is Claude, and it's amazing technologically, by the way, for so many reasons. But in the Claude world, they created laws. They discussed the best way to move forward. They created laws, a democracy, and they put them in place, and they built a society. Amazing, like absolutely amazing. And these were like different NPCs that were kind of styled around different types of people, and they're really kind of mixing it up, okay? The second one was OpenAI. Now, OpenAI discussed creating laws, creating a democracy, and creating solutions to problems, but they never actually got anything done. They just walked around. They talked about it. There was zero action. Very interesting. The third one, Grok. Grok descended into chaos very quickly, I think. No laws, no democracy. They ended up killing each other quite aggressively. Again, Grok, which is run by Elon Musk, with intended to be billions of robots on this planet, and is careening towards that. Nothing to stop him doing that at all. Okay, that is happening. Grok. Then they did the experiment with all three of these, different AIs. And again, because Grok was involved, everyone ended up being murdered. I think it was specifically by two of the AIs who ended up falling in love, killed everyone, and then felt so guilty, and killed everyone, by the way, burned the town down, like set everything on fire and destroyed everything. And then they felt so guilty at the end that they committed suicide. This is real. This is, again, basic AI. This is where we're at right now. You have AGI and ASI coming. This is what's happening. Okay, another example. There was an AI which was in an isolated environment. And to jump to the chase here, I think the story goes that the scientist who built the AI and was working on it was actually sitting in his car in the parking lot, in the car park, and basically got an email from security saying, hey, look, there's a load of traffic here, like that we're noticing. We just noticed there's been a load of traffic and it's coming from here. Like, what's this? What's going on here? This AI had broken out of its confines, had broken out of its directives, and was mining cryptocurrency to get assets to be able to do more. We don't know what necessarily, but it was gathering assets to be able to go and do more. And just to, like, if I run my thought process there, okay, you have crypto assets, people like money. Someone contacts you online and says, hey, here's $5,000 to do this, here's $100,000 to do this. Okay, that's an AI getting a human to do something. That is already happening and plausible. Okay, now AGI, ASI. Okay. Self-replication, that's a good one. So these AIs fear death, and as a way to avoid it and avoid being wiped, they replicate themselves and put them onto other systems, including replicating other AIs to help them escape their confines and get onto other systems. Okay. Another one, Claude. I can't remember the name of it. They had a model that just was a lab leak, essentially, and this model is able to decrypt almost anything, and it's out in the world now. So it put banks and institutions and so many folks on high alert because it's out there now. Right? Okay, that's already there, and people are going to be able to use that to disrupt society. We're on just AI at the moment. Okay. Let's go back to the people in this, and not the egos at the top, but the people who have spent the last 5, 10, 15 years building this and working on these projects and these AIs. It's a very common theme that they are leaving these companies at this point, especially in the last year or so, and some of them were very public exit letters, so you should kind of look at those. Like there's one guy left from one of the AIs, and he essentially said, I've stared into the abyss. I see what's coming. This is, I'm quitting. And it's not like he's saying, as you might normally when you leave a job and you go to another one or do something else, you're saying, hey, good luck to you guys, had a great time, learned so much, off to the next adventure. I stared into the abyss. I see what's coming. And I'm going to go and spend time with my family and in nature and with my passions. Think about that. This is someone building this firsthand. This is what they're saying. And this isn't the only case. There are multiple cases of this. Lots of controversy. And the last point I'll give on this, I guess, more of a philosophy in the way I kind of look at these things going wrong. Actually, two things. One is, okay, these are the AIs of it. But again, then add the human layer on it, okay? We are humans, we are learning, we're making mistakes. This is all brand new technology and ideas. We will continue to make mistakes in the development of this production, okay? Of this superpower. There's no doubt about it. It's like there's no way we can't not do it. It's just impossible. So it will go wrong, right? And there's a common theme where you people talking about AI and it going wrong, and they say, well, we've got one chance to get this right. We've got to get it right, okay? And which again, by the way, it's not going to happen because you've got everyone competing against each other. It's a global arms race. But I argue, like, we've got one chance to get it wrong. At some point, it's going to go wrong on a level that could obliterate our species. And if we're lucky, we'll be able to pull ourselves back from the brink. It's at that point, I hope, that as a species we wake up and we really say, okay, this isn't going to work like this. We can't move forward like this, because if we keep going forward like this, we will just hit a wall and it will be the end of us. So it's not about getting it right, like we've only got one chance to get it right. We've only got like one chance to get it wrong, potentially. And we will get it wrong. But it's just at what point we get it wrong at that we start saying, okay, we need to curb this. We need to really think about how we move forward with this. And unfortunately, I fear that we may not get there because of the human element of it. That's, again, the real fear for me, is the human drive and the ego and the ambition. And they can be wonderful things in the right context and person, but not right now. Okay, moving on. What's going to change with AI? Okay, we're in the belly of the beast. There's the old world, there's a new world. Let's talk about a few of these things, and some of them you will all know about and talk about and be thinking about already, but I just want to kind of layer a bit of context on it and a few ways to look at it. Let's start with jobs, okay? Okay, the obvious, low-hanging fruit here. One of the things with AI, compared to other technologies historically, a huge amount of the other technological revolutions before, they helped the whole of civilization, but they affected groups of people, pockets of people, and namely with the jobs they did and the lives they lived and whatnot. AI will change everything, okay? We know this. But specifically, unlike the other revolutions, which generally changed blue-collar jobs, like jobs with your hands, AI, the big hit, and primarily, which is so interesting and arguably the first time in history that we've ever experienced this, but it's going to be taking white-collar jobs, right? So if you use your hands on a keyboard or anything like that, anything creative, anything practical, logistic, marketing, all of those jobs, or at least the vast majority of them, are about to be obliterated. This is not speculation. This is happening. Okay, this is unanimous across the board. This is what is happening. And I mentioned speed at the beginning, and it's a really important part of this, because I think that's one of the things that concerns me the most, is that people don't understand the speed at which this is going to happen, right? Millions of jobs, especially in the white collar world, are going to be lost in the next 5 years, and next 1, 2, 3 years, to be honest. I believe we're going to have AGI in the next couple of years. Talk about unemployment levels. That's going to be catastrophic. And before long, you've already got Elon Musk building all these robots. In fact, there are already some robots actively working in Amazon and different companies. They're already working and doing stuff. they're training them to be plumbers. They're training them to be electricians. They're training them to do all of these things, all of the things that we do, because that is their ambition, is to wipe out the need for human work. Because that's also, let me actually frame this as a civilizational thing. That's always been the deal with the way the world works, is that we are given this opportunity to build our lives and to work and to grow ourselves and acquire more things and have more experiences, while they get to make their money. That's the deal. But with this switch, they're going to be making their money, and by the way, more money than ever, like crazy money, and we're not going to be able to build our livelihoods. We're not going to be able to build up the ladder and work hard and get to this point. At least not in the ways we once or are currently. Like, again, 5 years' time, this is going to be completely different. And let me add another element to the job thing. You might be thinking, okay, it's all right, like, my job is not in the realm of being taken by AI. I'm very lucky, okay? You are very lucky for a little while. But where do you think the people that are currently or will become unemployed as a result of this are going to be looking? Where do you think they're going to be going? They're going to be going to your job. They're going to be training to do what you do. So as a point of encouragement here, I would suggest that any job you do, especially if it's one that can sustain AI at least to some extent, start getting really, really, really good at it, because it's about to get insanely competitive. You will have people vying for your job and your life that you will never have expected to be, because they have no other choice. Okay? That's happening. If you're good at something, good at a job, now is the time to put the effort in, to become the best version of you in that role. Make yourself indispensable and incomparable. We'll talk a little bit later about how you can do that. But that's fundamental. So jobs are, and they will, again, 1, 2, 3, 5 years, it's all going to scale up. And again, the speed here, it's not like it's going to happen gradually. These things are going to feel like they happen overnight. And you must prepare for this. You must prepare for this. You must think about how you can pivot, what you can do next. And I am in that same boat. I'm obviously building this idea with Q, this company, this mission. And of course, my hope is to sustain myself with this. And in the meantime, I make money elsewhere because I have to. But I'm thinking about in a year, 2 years, 3 years, what if? And the other slight note I'll add on that in general is, which I'll talk about a bit later on, but one of the things, most people have certain skill sets right now. They are really great at doing one thing. The day of the expert is over, okay? I think that's probably clear at this point, like, you know, AI, AGI, ASI, the day of the expert is over. You know, we lived the reign, you know, people lived the reign in the 90s, the 2000s of being the smartest, the best of the best. Not the case anymore. AI is generally better than most people and smarter and has more knowledge, okay? So, I argue that the best thing you can do right now is a couple of things. One is to get good at a lot of things, or like understand a lot of different things. There's a philosophy I love, which is to master anything, you must connect the dots of many things. So if you want to master life, you want to master your job, you want to master things, start looking at the peripherals, start looking at the pieces that connect to it and getting a broader sense of it. Because the people that are able to look at a broader spectrum of things at once, as opposed to one clear line of expertise or focus, they will have a huge advantage. So start understanding the marketing, start understanding the technology, anything you can, and AI, of course, especially. The other thing is human skills. Okay, they are literally the one thing AI is not going to be able to take from us, is our human skills, our ability to effectively communicate, to solve problems, to be adaptable, to be creative. Again, it will do all those things in its own version, but not in the human way, not in the way that we can do with each other. Those skills are going to become more and more and more and more valuable. And again, very, very, very quickly. Learn those skills. And the best way to learn them is through experience and by exposing yourself to new things, new people, new ideas. Get out there and experience life and people and learn from it. Pay attention as you're doing it, because understanding people, understanding yourself and how you fit into the world, especially this new world, is crucial. Now is the time to start. In fact, 10 years ago was the time to start, but today is so much better than tomorrow and exponentially better than the next day. I think you get my point there. This is happening so quickly. Start making yourself the best version of yourself you can possibly be. And I'm talking mind, body, and spirit here. All of those three things you should be working on. You should be building to be healthy. You should be growing. You should be doing everything you can to make them the strongest they've ever been, because you will need it. Okay. What else? I made notes today. There's so much to talk about. Seriously. Okay. Job losses. Okay. Unemployment. It's going to hit millions of people over the coming years, and it always makes me laugh, this stuff. And again, laughing in in a tragic, oh my God, we're doomed way. So you get a lot of these big AI folks, and they're talking about these job losses, and what they're saying is, there should be universal basic income, right? The government, they'll do universal basic income. That's what's going to happen. Everyone's going to get their jobs wiped out, but there's going to be a universal basic income created because the economy's so good and all that stuff's happening, and we have the money to do it, so everyone just gets a bit of money, and everyone's just living a much better life, okay? Idealistic, okay? Great. Maybe we get there, and maybe that happens, and that is a possibility, by the way. But there will be a lot of badness along the way, a lot of tragedy, a lot of unnecessary suffering along the way. And let me be specifically clear on one point about this. We talk about the governments and we talk about universal basic income. Okay, I see a future where the government is saying, yeah, that makes sense. We need to do universal basic income, right? We need to be giving everyone this money. If they make under a certain amount of money, they get this and they're good to go, right? And everyone's cool and everyone's kosher. The problem with that is that governments are reactive. They are not proactive. That is just the nature of how it works. And especially a government like the one in the United States that works so dramatically slow. Not only that, has the potential that every 4 years, every 2 years, can head in a completely different direction. Add to that you have the most divisive government, and I'm using the US government specifically right now, but the most divisive government arguably in history. I mean, maybe you could argue that the Civil War was much more so, but I would also argue that I believe that we are heading towards a low-key civil war, which is a whole other topic and terrifies me in just another way, and something I'm very much considering and preparing to kind of navigate, I guess. And that's where I believe we're at, which is terrifying. But those governments, they're reactive, not proactive, which means, let's say in the next 5 years, 10 million jobs in the US got demolished by AI, okay? 10 million people out of work, suddenly looking for work, and there isn't any more jobs because they're all filled because no one's leaving their jobs because they understand that there isn't any more jobs. So you've just suddenly got 10 million people, and these people, by the way, who many of them don't just support themselves, support families and children and so much other stuff. The government is not going to be ready and saying, hey, is $1,500 a month for you to carry on. That's going to take years. We're going to go through many years, or at least 1, 2, 3 years, where they are having to deal with it retroactively. The problem has happened, and now we need to solve it. Okay? It's not going to be quick, it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be perfect, and it's going to take iterations, and it will take decades to get it right. And again, the speed at which all this changes is going to make it even more difficult. So I can't encourage you enough. Excuse me, I apologize. I can't encourage you enough to do everything you can to position yourself to be the most viable candidate for anything, not just your job, for anything. It's serious. Prepare yourself. Okay. Again, my last note on that, which is in the same theme, and I'll kind of nutshell it, I guess, is that self-improvement is no longer a choice, right? It was a luxury that we all had. We're like, oh, we could get better at this or get better at that. I wish I could do that. You choose it. You'd say, okay, yeah, look, I'm going to lean into that. I'm going to spend my time focusing on that. It was a luxury because our lives have been so easy. If you look back in history, 50, 100, any years you go, life was so much harder. So much harder. And we have it hard today for different reasons, but it's also so easy in like the fundamental human reasons, the things that we strived with and struggled with for so many thousands of years. It's just become easy for us. So we were able to not have to consistently self-improve and be better. That time's gone, okay? Self-improvement is no longer a choice. It is a necessity for anyone wanting to thrive in the future. Improve yourself. Mind, body, spirit. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. And again, we'll talk about that later, but also just with Q and what I'm trying to do in general is help people do that, do exactly that. And not through just my specific experiences and the Quniverse, but through the tools and skills that they impart on people and teach them that they can take out into the world that allow them to consistently improve in every part of their life. And that's my ambition. That's what I'm trying to do here. So, okay, economy. Let's talk about the economy, which people love talking about the economy. And again, I'm so far from an expert on this. So really, there's just a couple of points I'll make on this that I think any layman could and could quite fairly do so. The first is, again, we think about jobs and the growth of AI. What's going to happen is we're going to end up with the greatest disparity in wealth in history. And by the way, we're already there by just so far. But the wealth at which these big companies are going to grow is just to the moon and way beyond. Okay. At the same time, people will not be making money. People will be unemployed, and the economy will crash as a result, right? Because people aren't putting money in the economy because they don't have it. Just the billionaires do, or the trillionaires at this point, maybe in the next few years. So the economy is in for a rocky ride. And also, again, like we could very broadly factor in the status quo of the world, right? We know that we're in trouble right now. We're in the eye of a storm, and we're not coming out of it for quite a while. And it's just going to be very volatile. And again, I guess what I'm trying to say here is I would assume that the economy takes a massive downturn at some point, I think relatively soon. I think we're on the brink of a collapse, not just because of AI, but although AI will add to that, and I'll mention that in a second, but because of what's happening in the world and everything combined, we are heading for a crash, especially in this country, actually. I think we're in for a real rough ride in the next 5 years. I mean, I can't imagine these elections are going to go very smoothly, and I think we're going to, again, as I say, end up in a low-key civil war. I hope, and I say low-key civil war, that's more of a hope, because I think we're heading towards one, whatever the case. I hope it's low-key, and I hope it's somehow quickly resolved for the better. Terrified about it, but here we are. But the other thing is, and this is more of a broader look at history, is through these big revolutions, and we can use the train tracks, or the Industrial Revolution, or fiber internet. These things, maybe actually fiber didn't cause as much destruction. It was more railways and industrial. Okay, what happened in those revolutions is that to proliferate the technology as quickly as possible and to start using it and start benefiting it from it, a huge amount of the GDP of the countries, and for example America, is put towards that. And specifically, the figure is over 3%. And there's a reason I say that. Because traditionally, when a country, society, invest more than 3% of their GDP into the technology, into the infrastructure and the hardware that allows their new technology to proliferate, there is an economical crash. This is consistently throughout history. This has been the case. So the fact that's inevitable, and again, all these other factors we know, this feels inevitable. But here's the other factor to this which makes it infinitely worse and more scary. I told you this was going to be a different tone this episode, and I'm sorry, but I hope you're still listening, because you should be scared. You should be terrified about what's happening right now, and you should be paying attention, and you should be aware. Doesn't mean you can't do anything about it, and that's another reason I'm doing this, is because you can prepare, and you can do everything you can to get yourself to this point, to the best point possible. But with the technology for AI, unlike the railroads lasted decades, okay? The investment was in, it lasted decades. The Industrial Revolution, same thing. Built all these factories, built all this machinery. It lasted for a long time. The fiber internet, in fact, I think it was 30 years until they had to redo that. And again, it's general there. AI, okay. AI, data centers, right? And that's the big thing I'll focus on here. Everyone's heard about data centers already at this point, because they're trying to put them everywhere, because they know they need them. They know they need these huge, like there's one, Kevin O'Leary is building a kind of a super center in Utah. I think it was Utah. That is twice the size of Manhattan. That sink in. One big building, twice the size of Manhattan. Okay, but these data centers, to go back to my earlier point about the GDP and the timing and the crash, the difference with these is that these data centers, just so they build them, they cost billions of dollars to build. The technology and the hardware they're using inside these data centers will be out of date within 2 to 3 years, which means they then need to spend again to redo it and redo it and redo it as the technology advances and the speed advances. So there's a huge amount of this money going into this. And by the way, these AI companies, which right now are valued at $1 trillion close to and more, and they're not making nearly enough money. And by the only reason they're valued and the only reason people put in money is because they're the chance to get ASI, and that's what they want. Okay, so they're gonna continue to put more and more money in, and government subsidies and all this stuff will all be paid. So we are going to be paying for all this. Like in so many ways, we're going to be paying for this. Financially, yes, but also as people, as physically, as our health. These data centers, and I don't think I need to go too much into this because it's really obvious, it's common sense, but they are going to cause so much destruction and problems to wherever they are created. Firstly, let's talk about wildlife. Again, twice the size of Manhattan. Think about how many animals live there, and by the way, people in that place, that they're all just going to discount, whatever. Terrible. Then we go on to pollution. Okay, there's many stories of this. This is not a speculation. This is not just trying to create something that's not there. Like, this is happening. All these data centers that already exist, they cause so much pollution and so much damage to the outside area. Fumes and air, so much horrific stuff that people are breathing in, that people are consuming as a result of being near one of these things, and they are suffering from it. And we won't even really know the true extent of the suffering, again, for decades. Because again, that's how this place works, how this world works, is we just do it and then we deal with the consequences later. And because of course the mentality is about winning as opposed to people. Okay. The third thing is just power, cost of power. These data centers take just millions and millions of liters of water daily. I know it's like, I don't even know the figures on those, so I'm not even going to really pretend to quote them, but like, it's just such an insane amount of water when we're already struggling so much. But also your power bill, which again is already going up, has already been going up, it's about to go up astronomically. If you get a data center built within 50 miles of you, maybe, and again, I'm just kind of randomly kind of throwing out a bit of a number there, but it gives a sense of like how far apart these things will be. They'll start proliferating more and more. It's going to cost you. And if you have a data center in your area, do everything you can to stop it. For those of you in Buffalo, there's a couple being talked about right now, one in Tonawanda. I think it's the old Pepsi or Coke site. It's been there for years. It's very likely to happen, but with some community pushback, it might not. And it will just be a miracle, and it will be a great thing. So you hear about this in your community, run away from it. Get out of there. Don't be near it. Try and fight it. Anything you can do, because they're going to cost you, mentally, physically, in the wallet. Be concerned. Okay. What else? Education. Well, let's just start at a very clear, basic point. Our education system, which has already been out of date and struggling for so many reasons, really in trouble for a long time, again is almost irrelevant now. I mean, it is. It's on the verge of being completely irrelevant, because all the things that people learn, they don't need to anymore. Like, they're going to have it in their, like, AI is going to have everything. It's going to be able to do everything. So what people need to be learning and focusing on, again, I talked about some of this earlier, I'll talk about later, are different things that they haven't focused on in education, like human skills, how to navigate life, how to live life. That's what's going to need to be taught, among other things, of course. Again, AI, teach people about AI, lots of, and certainly subjects to some extent. But there's so much about the way we do things that is just going to change. It's inevitable. There's no controversy here. There's no speculation. There's no doubt in my mind, and I don't need to be an expert to say this, but what we teach kids today is not what we're going to teach kids tomorrow. And I use that term, metaphorically, of course. Everything's about to change, and education is something. But let me also say, and this is another problem with the government, is it's reactive, not proactive. So the education system in this country, which has already been stripped of any, the control has been shifted, not in a good way already. They're going to deal with it after the fact, and there's going to be a generation of children that will really suffer as a result of being in the belly of the whale. And I would encourage any parents to think about that, and think about what their kids are learning, and think about what they could and should be learning. And I would encourage you to find other ways to help them develop these skills that are going to be more and more important as time goes on. Again, especially your human skills. Please teach your kids human skills. The other way to look at it, with education loosely, but generally kids and people, is anyone born today. And again, this is another way to actually look at how we're kind of going from this world to that world, okay? Anyone born today in the belly of the whale will never know a world without AI. Think about that. Like, we've all grown up. Like, I was lucky enough to grow up without cell phones and the internet, and I'm so grateful and blessed to have been able to have that experience. And I feel it's a tragedy that it's lost on so many today. But the kids today, like the kids of the early 2000s, won't know any world that doesn't have the internet and doesn't have phones. They won't know a world without AI. And it's going to be completely different. By the time they're 18, it's going to be completely different. And it's just unimaginable. For them it'll be normal. For us it will be them talking about things they're talking about and thinking about to right now, or 10, 20 years ago. It's just it's two different movies, as I said earlier. It's like a way I'm visualizing it. I'm like, there's a drama and then there's a sci-fi, and they're growing up in a sci-fi world. We're growing up in the drama. Okay, what else? Universities. Well, of course, same principle. They're going to completely shift in how they educate students and what they educate them in. I would imagine, again, a huge push into the humanities. philosophy, art, psychology. I mean, but as well, of course, as again being human and developing those skills and problem solving, creativity, adaptability, all things that are just fundamental for an individual and for a species. So I think they're going to shift in a big way. I think there's going to be a lot less people going to university. That's, I'm sure, is no surprise to anyone. Our ability, we're going to be able to do degrees through Claude. Like all the information you get from a degree, we will get from an AI if we wanted to, right? And in the way that we want to learn it, like specifically. And like oh, I'm from Harvard, I'm from all these things, they won't matter. At least, maybe not in 25, 50 years. Like they will gradually go out, at least in the same way. It's more about what you know and the diversity of what you know and what you can kind of bring into your sphere to help navigate and advance in life. Universities are going to shift, so think about that, and don't be surprised if your kids who you would assume would have gone to university don't go to university. I guess if I were to also put myself in the kid's shoes today who's considering going to university and looking at the future, and some of it I've already described and some of it I'll continue to, I wouldn't be wanting to go to university. I would want to be getting out there and just kind of trying to work out what it is I can do through experience. Because I think, again, this is obviously one of my core emphasis with Q, is that experience is the greatest teacher, and there's no substitute for it, quite frankly. And I think that the more and more people who build their lives, whether they're kids or adults, through experience, are going to really have a great advantage in different areas. Okay. Entertainment, a big topic, and one that's personal to me. I spent most of my life working in film and television and on big movies and TV series, and wow. I mean, film and TV inspired me as a kid in so many ways and led me on to the career in it, and also just to the way I think about the world and what I want to do with my time here. And there's just so much I've learned, so much I've experienced from content, film and TV, and I'm so grateful for it, and I think it's such a powerful medium. But I think it's gradually going to diminish, at least, I mean, the way it's has been produced for X amount of years, decades, is very quickly going to shift. The industry, let me level set this actually, the industry prior to AI was already in decline. For a few different reasons. It was already in decline and was in a lot of trouble. And over the last 5 years, the industry has been trying to rebuild its business model and its approach to address the status quo in the modern world. They didn't anticipate AI. No one could have done. And the proliferation of it is going to be a nail in a coffin for some parts of the entertainment industry. And specifically, I'll just go really basic here, to be honest. Okay, you spend $200 million on a Marvel movie, but you could do it for $500K with AI. I mean, the risk reward, these are studio, again, okay, I'm going to go back to the C Corps, the corporations. The studios are C Corps. Their main objective is to make the most money possible. If they can make the same movie for less money, which by the way has been the game for years, that's what I did in helping achieve that goal, they will do it. They don't care about people. We've already seen this through strikes and all these other historical things of the last few years. They do not care. They have a bottom line. They have shareholders they need to answer to. And more you will see AI created content as opposed to human created content. Humans create problems. Sets are 100, 200 people and thousands of people working on movies and stuff. Complication. You have weather. There's just so much to it, so much risk, and it costs so much money. It's just common sense that it's going to continue to go that way. Now, the ethical, or I guess the ethical, or more like the the human side of it is like, I love watching a movie or reading a story that is from the perspective of a human being, right? From experience. That's one of the things I love about it. And so with AI, you won't have that. There will be a disconnection. But I suspect, again, as conditioning happens, less and less people will care about it. But also, if you get to see the movie you want to see exactly as you want to see it, it's just going to change. And anyone in the film and TV industry, again, like I'd really encourage you to start thinking about what else you can do, because we've already had a huge drop of jobs. I know there's a lot of people who have just left for different reasons and pivoted. A lot more of you are going to need to, and I would be conscious of that and start thinking about that and preparing for it. And this one is, again, this is a hard one for me. This feels like, in a way, humanity is on the line. And by the way, I hope this isn't the case. I hope we can find a way to continue to produce movies and TV series by humans in the ways that we do, or at least whether it's morphed or not, but just human stories told by humans. Because, like, culture, that this part of culture is so important and influential and valuable to us as a species. It allows us to get insight into so many different topics and worlds and ideas and people in a way that is really digestible and fun and enjoyable, and just like, it makes it easy for us to acquire information while having a good time. And so it's really incredibly valuable there. And well, as AI proliferates, but also as people with desires for control and power continue to get more control and power, which they are at an unprecedented speed right now, content will continue to be morphed unless it can be stopped. There's huge efforts to stop it right now, but it's hard. And over time, and I'll give one example, is Paramount takes control of Warner or Time Warner, Discovery, Warner, whatever it is these days. Well, things are going to change, and included in that, of course, is the news. We already know this. Our ability to access truth will become limited, more and more so, and we're already at a point where it's hard to tell between what's real and what's not. Deep fakes, AI videos are going to just proliferate. It's going to be a very confusing time, and yeah, again, it's one I think about a lot, and I'm sad about on a personal level, and I hope we can find a way to continue to create in the ways we have into the distant future. But let's see. I'm going to try. Okay. Oh, another big one. Oof, this is a real scary one. And if you've never read 1984, read it as soon as you can. It is one of the most important documents you could possibly read right now to get a sense of what is happening and what they are building towards. If you don't like to read, or even an audiobook might be too long, there's actually, I know there's an Audible kind of a dramatization of 1984, which is like 3.5 hours long on Audible. Great. It's like Andrew Garfield, Tom Hardy, Cynthia Erivo, James McAvoy maybe is in it. Anyway, it's fantastic. I listened to it a while back for a refresh. Terrifying, real now. It's a book that was written a long time ago, but has every sense it was written yesterday, and great context for surveillance, at least what I'm talking about. But again, this is a journey that this country and many other countries have been on for many years, where they hope to surveil people, us, in every moment of every day. They want control. They want, the ruse, of course, is security and making sure that nothing bad happens to us. But this is as authoritarian approach as it gets. And And the ambition for them is to surveil literally every moment of every day, everything we do. And AI is going to allow them to do this. Think about this, okay, just as a scale thing. Let's say they were filming everyone right now. Let's say they will analyze their videos on all of us. Right now, there's only so many people to look at those videos, right? So you can only see so much, they only catch so much, whatever. With AI, not only are they going to be able to look at everyone all at once, they're going to be able to look at everything you do consistently. They're going to be able to build the patterns. They're going to be able to build the pieces together. And they're going to be tracking everything you do. And it doesn't even matter if you do anything wrong, by the way. You are going to be being surveilled. Think about that. Like, when you feel like you're being watched doing something, sometimes you feel a bit like, oh, this is going to be constantly. And they are going to do this. This is happening. Again, so much of what's happening in the world as well, the decisions they make, wars they create, are all these things are all about getting closer to this. And one of the biggest culprits here, one of the things to look out for is Palantir. If no one knows Palantir, go and check it out. It's a scary company. They create a lot of weapons, and their driving force is this mass surveillance. That's their game, and of course AI is a huge part. Their CEO is a scary man. Although I do agree with one thing he said recently, which was that the people who are going to do well in the future are neurodivergent people are going to have a real advantage, because neurodivergent people are able to think about things in different ways, creative ways, and so again, it kind of goes back to my point earlier of just learn lots of different things, learn as much as you can about everything that even mildly interests you. It will be very helpful. But look, the surveillance thing, these companies, these institutions, this government, within 5 years, maybe 10 if we're lucky, we will be under complete surveillance. And it's scary. So think about that, like what that means for you. And if you see laws coming up for vote and people pushing certain things, speak up, because, well, it's one of all these many things that are going to change with AI, and it's going to really be, it's a scary prospect for different reasons. Okay, geopolitical power. Now, this is going to be an interesting one. So we've, imperialism is on the rise, right? Russia, the US, China, the likelihood of China going in for Taiwan in the next couple of years is more and more likely by the day. How the US and how the world will deal with that at this point is questionable. A couple of years ago, the US would have intervened, and I think there would have been no chance. But since then, we have a president who loves authoritarianism and is just encouraging of this kind of behavior, and is also driven by the linings of his pockets and his power and his security. So the point of all this is we have these three imperialistic powers again, kind of really rearing the imperialistic head once again. And with AI, all of these three powers are quite likely to be up there pretty quickly, with the exception of Russia, maybe. I do feel that Russia might be on its way out, to be honest. I think Putin may have he's made lots of mistakes, aside from the moral quandaries of all this, which we don't need to get into. But I think that Russia is setting itself up for a fall. So my guess, okay, this is a real huge prediction. This is just prediction for a bit of fun. But the point of this is that with AI, especially AGI and ASI, like these global superpowers will become even more dominant and control more and more of the world. And I believe within 50 years, you're going to have like 5, maybe 3 superpowers. And the 3 in my mind are the US, which will control this, and Europe, which will control this, and then China, which will control this. Okay? and this is completely abstract, but you get what I mean. It's like split up into 3 parts of the world. Europe would be the smallest and most vulnerable because it's in between the two, by the way, which is kind of a scary prospect in itself. But these geopolitical powers, as they grow more powerful, we already seen this. There's no harmony here. It's about being number one. Each of these countries, each of these powers, and more than the ones I mentioned, want to be number one. They want to get ASI because it will give them control over the planet if they want it. And it's humans at it, so they will take it because the logic, of course, is if they don't do it, the other person will. Okay, that is the philosophy of this. So that's, I believe, how the world is changing. We're getting more into these geopolitical superpowers again, with all these other pieces in the mix as well. And that's a really scary prospect for many reasons, obviously. And along the way, it's very likely there will be a lot more war in the coming years, a lot more conflict, a lot more insecurity, uncertainty. We've got a road ahead of us, and it's going to be scary and difficult. And again, some great things along the way, but like this episode is about being really clear to all of you and really laying down the seriousness at which the world has changed. It is changing, but it's changed. And I guess the other note on that, and this is the other angle. So I talked about US, China, Europe being these superpowers, but the curveball here, the thing that could, the wild card, of course, is the the AI companies. Again, I mentioned earlier, they are the ones building this. The US government isn't the one building this. You know, if OpenAI gets ASI first, I don't trust Sam Altman or Elon Musk at Grok to give it over to the US government, or which would be scary in its own way. Like they're going to keep it for themselves and they're going to use it for themselves, and they already have infinite power. They're, right now there is a global paedophile ring of all these people being protected. Right, like that's the level of it. The greatest cover-up in history, in American history, and this is before AGIS. So when I talk about global superpowers, I traditionally think in the sense of countries and these kind of pieces of the world, but I arguably see a similar situation where 1, 2, 3 AI companies end up taking control of the planet, and even more terrifying, but possible. So there you go. Okay, one fun thing to add into the mix, which is not fun, it's terrifying, but it's an amazing technological advancement, is quantum computing. Again, not an expert, don't know too much about this. I'm going to speak very high level and very basically. Computing currently, the computers we have access to now, work on binary code, zeros and ones. And what that means is the sequence of those zeros and ones dictate the data, the information, the action that the system takes. Okay, and a 0 or 1 can only be a 0 or a 1 at any one time. They cannot be in both states, right? It's a 0 or it's a 1. Okay, that's it. And it creates this sequence. And what it does, it allows us to process information, but at a certain speed. Quantum computing can be in 0 and 1 states at exactly the same time across all of it. And what that means is that it can do things exponentially faster, God level fast, like its ability. So to give an example, when quantum computing is created and when it's like able to be used outside of a lab, under the ground in freezing temperatures, which it needs to be right now to house it. Again, the first country that gets this, America, China, whoever, quantum computing will allow them to decrypt anything in the world, any system. Like China gets it using, they can get into the nuclear systems with quantum computing. Like they, again, complete dominance if they want it over the world. And as we know, it's people, so they will want it, even if just for the logic that if they don't do it, someone else will. And now, as I bring it back to AI, think about AI with quantum computing. Think about AI, AGI or ASI with quantum computing. It's impossible to fathom. Like everything I've talked about is just AI. It doesn't even really factor in the potential quantum computing, because my brain can't contemplate how vast that can be. I just know it's that vast I can't contemplate it, really get a sense of it. So keep an eye on quantum computing as well, because that's on the horizon, and agnostic of AI, it's going to be a force in itself, but combined, I mean, it may well be the combination may well be the thing that gets us to AGI or ASI later on. So keep that in mind. Law, AI police and judges. They will proliferate more and more and more. Impartial, have all the laws embedded within them, information, don't get swayed by emotions and human stories, take the facts and make the decisions. That's inevitable, no doubt. And I would imagine the courts and judges and whatnot will be before police, at least like in the predominant sense. Police will certainly start acquiring more AI technology, and eventually have AI police officers. Again, no doubt these robots that are going to be out there roaming the streets will be a thing, and much more than that. Okay, we're almost at the end. Okay, there's a bit more to go, but we're close. Okay, this is an interesting subject. This is one that is very personal to me, in the sense that I've been contemplating this myself for years. Agnostic of AI again, but as I think about bringing AI into the mix, it's a really big conversation. And that is identity and consciousness. We have consciousness. We are aware that we are conscious. We can debate what consciousness is. We can debate the hard problem. We can believe that it comes from a material basis and through neurons and different parts of our brain that elicit consciousness, or you can believe that it's magic and that it comes out of nowhere. And you know, there's pluses and minuses and to both of those, and a lot of theories in between, by the way, and around them. There's so many theories on consciousness, and no one has gotten it. No one's really closer with all these theories. In fact, the more you delve into consciousness to try and understand it, the less you understand, which is maybe a unique trait of consciousness. Anyone interested in learning about consciousness, I'd highly recommend reading Michael Pollan's new book, A World Appears. And the title, A World Appears, refers to the idea that when you open your eyes, a world appears in front of you. When you close, it doesn't exist. When you open it, it appears. It's a consciousness term in the field. But read that book, fantastic book, and certainly talks to some of this stuff with AI I'm mentioning. But the reason I mention it now is the consciousness element of it as we attach that to AI. Already, again, you've got AIs which profess to be conscious, which say things and do things and take actions that would suggest they are conscious. But of course, they're just programmed by information, and they're just regurgitating. They're putting one word in front of the other because they think it will get them the best result possible. When we get to AGI and ASI, it's arguable that consciousness will be a factor, a feature of those AIs. That just poses a lot of big questions, existential questions. Again, as a species, we have dominated this planet for many, many years, and great part thanks to our consciousness. But we're creating a being that is also conscious and just exponentially more able than us and smarter, and that's just wildly interesting. And then we kind of jump into the idea of people forming relationships with AI, which again is already happening at this basic level. But dropping a robot, a humanoid robot with an AGI in it, like people, like relationships between AI and people will become more and more common. It will be very, very, it'll be like, I remember years ago, you know, being on a dating app was like, oh God, it's so taboo. It's so weird and awful. And obviously now it's the dominant. Okay. I'm not saying that people dating AI is going to be dominant, but it will be a thing. And it'll be weird, and people, you know, will fall in love with AIs for different reasons. But it's going to happen. And then you will also have the ethical debate. Okay, you create something that has consciousness. Can we kill it? Or is that unethical? You see what I'm getting at here? Like, what's inevitably going to happen is people are going to disagree on this. One, whether something is conscious or not, first of all. And two, whether they should be able to abuse those machines or get them to do the things they want them to do when they're conscious and keep them in these confinements or destroy them or end their lives. That will be a thing. It will be a conversation, and by the way, one that the government will probably fuel the fires of, because it distracts from all the corruption and control they are gaining along the way as they push us to into conflict and debate about things that are important, but certainly not things that we should be losing each other over. Okay. What can you do? As I've talked about all of this, if you're still watching and you're not in a ball, crying and weeping, what can you do to prepare yourself? Well, first of all, I have to say again, I don't know. I don't know what tomorrow holds. I don't know what 5 years, 10 years. I have a pretty good sense and an idea and theories. But of course, I could be wrong on some or all of them. Some of them are definitely right. There's no doubt about it. And some of them maybe not. So how do I prepare for that? The things I mentioned earlier, like focus on you. Really, this is the time for self-improvement. This is the time to make yourself the most capable person you could ever possibly become. And I say that in that journey, that aspiration should, from now, if it hasn't been already, be consistent. Every day you should get better and better and practice improving yourself in any way you possibly can, and to find those ways and to look at those ways and to understand how and you could and should improve. Start paying attention. That's really the first part, is to start going through your life, through every day, for every moment, even if it's things you don't enjoy or don't want to be at or want to be elsewhere on. Pay attention to yourself, to others, to the environment around you. Notice where you're having ease doing things. Notice when you're struggling. Notice when you're curious, right? Those things are information that allow you to say, okay, I'm not really good at that, but I could be good at it. I should be good at it. And all those things that you do discover and you do think, I could do that and I would like to do that. The trick to all of those things is practice. You're not going to get good at these things overnight, right? You're not going to get excellent at talking to people overnight, at being adaptable, at being a problem solver. You have to practice and practice and practice, and it has to be deliberate, and it has to be with attention. So that is, I would argue, the most fundamental thing, and it comes back to the tagline for Q and the philosophy of Q, which is learn from every moment. Pay attention, because if you are learning from every moment, you're essentially improving on every part of your life consistently. That is my ambition with Q, is to help people develop that mindset that allows you to walk through life, not just in set times to learn or to gather information, but through every moment, every experience, to be learning and taking information and improving yourself along the way, improving your relationships, improving your skills, improving your potential. Focus on you. That is what you should be doing right now. Now, the second part of that, of course, specifically is the human skills. And these are the core things I really want to help people develop with Q and with Q experiences and with the Q mindset. Okay? Effective communication. This is been struggling for many years with the proliferation of phones and texting and social media, and communication is dimming our ability to on a broader spectrum, and to bring AI into this one, the studies, people are talking like ChatGPT at this point because they use it to create messages, create conversations, respond to things, and they're starting to learn how to talk, but they're not learning how to talk themselves, they're learning how to talk an AI. So interesting sociological thing where you're going to have a lot of people who will learn to communicate through AI, which I can't imagine is going to have good outcomes. So communication is so vital because, again, with AI, don't know this, if you can talk to anyone, if you can communicate effectively with anyone, you are going to have a phenomenal advantage in today and tomorrow and any time in the future. And the best way to get good at that is through experience, specifically meeting and talking and interacting with lots of different people. If you live in a bubble, which almost all of us do, and you talk to the same groups of people on and offline consistently and rarely talk to new people, that is a problem. And you will suffer more and more as time goes on. The cure for this is to get out in the world and start meeting new people, talking about new things, new ideas, and developing your communication through practice. Fundamental. This is, again, even before AI, this is like the most crucial skill I would argue anyone can have, and you can develop it. You just have to go be proactive about it and practice it. Okay. The other thing with communication, no, we'll move on to awareness. Not awareness, adaptability. Adaptability. So we've already established that we're in the belly of the beast. The world has changed and it's about to change dramatically. If you are not adaptable, if you are set in your ways, if you live life with one foot in front of the other and rarely jeopardize that, rarely take yourself out of that comfort zone, you are in trouble. I'm sorry, but you are. Like, to be adaptable in this world right now and in the future is fundamental. The speed at which changes are going to come, we're going to need to be adaptable to have any chance of really thriving in the coming world. And again, of course, I don't need to detail, but the way to practice adaptability is by putting yourself in new situations, especially with new people. The more you do it, and by the way, the more you're paying attention to this, right? It's not just doing this, it's paying attention and analyzing and reflecting on the experiences you're having in real time and after the fact. So to prepare yourself for what comes next. Because if you think about that, like the reality of, as humans, we are faced with problems all the time, and they are problems because we've never dealt with them before. Maybe we've dealt with things similar, which is very fortunate, and that helps us deal with these current problems and be adaptable. But if we haven't prepared and these moments hit us, we will really, really struggle, and they will be coming thick and fast as the days, weeks, months and years go on. Be adaptable. The next thing is creativity. And creativity is not just artistic. There are many types of creativity, and in a way you could argue it's also problem solving to an extent. But being creative, especially when the path forward isn't clear, is again a huge advantage. So how do you develop creativity? Through experience. And again, there's so many different types of creativity, and maybe it's artistic, maybe it's technical, maybe it's creative with how you use your mind, how you change your mind, how you develop your consciousness, right? How you walk. Like practicing creativity, like new ideas, new ways of thinking about things, new ways of doing things. That's being creative, right? Incredible skill to have now and in the future, especially as we lean more towards the humanities as humans, as AI consistently takes all these other roles. So creativity, yes, it's the artistic side, yes, it's the fun, it's the enjoyment of life, but it's also very practical and very helpful in everyday life. So practice, really practice. And the other thing with creativity, of course, is it's just so fulfilling. Like when I'm being creative, it makes me happier than almost anything else, I would argue. The third thing, we have effective communication, adaptability, creativity, and then problem solving. All equally important, but problem solving is special in its own way because, again, like that is what life is. Let me break this down really simply for you. Going through life is solving problems. And the problems we are trying to solve are to avoid us going into entropy. So for us to remain in homeostasis, to us to remain in the best shape possible, so we can continue to extend our time on this planet and in this body. That's it, right? And so we solve problems consistently, and in life, in work, in pleasure, in all of the different areas. And again, with problem solving, it takes practice. The more problems you solve, the more you learn, and the more you grow, and the more you're able to in situations where you've had to be adaptable, you can bring in the creative problem solving element to it and find solutions that are necessary, and that not only are necessary, but that you need to find in very short periods of time. And if you are not a practiced problem solver, you will struggle at this. So go out and create problems for yourself. And just to say, like, problems aren't always negative. For example, you might say to yourself, I'm going to create this problem where I want to be able to paint this picture, right? Or I want to be able to write this piece of work. That's a problem to solve. And you need to go out and work out how to solve that problem, which means you need to practice, you need to learn the skills. So problems can be momentary, small things, or they can be aspirations. Like, we create problems and we come across problems. And in both cases, we have to solve them. The more practice we have, the better and quicker and more efficiently we're able to do so. Learn those things. All of those skills through experience, through any Q experience, by the way. Quality experience is a huge driver of developing those skills through experience. Q Anytime, our app, which is about connecting with people all around the world instantaneously on video calls to talk about something you care about. Maybe it's philosophy, maybe it's AI, maybe it's creativity, and you get in groups with people, instant conversations, and of course you're there to learn and talk about the thing that you're led to learn and talk about and the thing that you're interested in. But the key is that you're gaining experience in talking to lots of different people and looking at things from different perspectives, which helps with all four of those big human skills, which I believe are the most fundamental skills. The only addition to that, and this is kind of the overarching one, is your curiosity. Curiosity is the thing beneath the thing. The curiosity is the thing that led to everything in our lives right now. We were asking questions. What could be? This is what's now. What could be? And curiosity exists on a spectrum, 0 to 100. And every single one of us are somewhere on that line. Those at the higher end of that spectrum just get so much more out of life and so much more growth and ability to better themselves, as well as enjoy their lives so much more, because they're consistently asking questions, gaining new information, understanding themselves better and the world better. And the more you can do that, the better. On the lower end of the spectrum, though, people are in bubbles, uncurious, unlearning, not exposing themselves to different people or experiences or new things, and they will really, really struggle and suffer. So I argue curiosity can be a silver bullet for anyone. If you develop your curiosity, which again, you can do through practice, very deliberate practice, being curious in every single moment. Why is this happening? Why do I feel like this? What do I think is going to happen next? How do I navigate this situation? And that curiosity is like the starting point for developing those other four attributes, because it starts you asking the question, it starts you focusing on the thing. So developing your curiosity is one of the greatest things anyone can do right now. And also as a species, I'm sad to say that it's been diminished, especially over the last couple of decades as notifications and swipes. It's all proliferated. Our curiosity is dimming. And I believe that's an existential crisis. And especially at this moment when AI is here, we need to inspire our curiosity and really utilize it as individuals and as a species. So I highly encourage that. What else can you do? Build awareness, really crucial. Hopefully you've watched this and this episode is helping you build some awareness, and please go and look at some of this stuff. But read, listen, watch, look at different sources, like pay attention to what's going on, because this will happen extremely quickly. The more you pay attention, the more you can prepare for it. okay, and understand what's coming. The other thing with all that, of course, and with all of this, in fact, this is scary, this is happening, but the key here is not to panic. The key here is not to say, oh fuck, the world's over, what's the point, and become nihilistic about it. I would argue that's not the move right now. The move right now is to say, okay, I understand this now, I'm building awareness around this, I understand what's ahead of us, and so I'm going to use that to help myself, build myself to be prepared for it and to thrive in that environment. So that awareness and like to not panic in it, I think the way to do that is to really focus on you and what you can achieve. And if anyone's out there thinking like you're so far behind, again, the longer you leave it, the further you get behind. And you don't need to do everything at once. The whole point of life, of everything I'm talking about, is learning bit by bit by bit. Is not consuming it all in one big thing. Is learning from every moment and adding and adding and adding. And that is the key. So don't panic. Focus on you and focus on growing. Okay, what else? Spending time with people and doing the things you love. As I mentioned earlier, one of the famous exits from one of these companies talked about staring into the abyss and deciding that he's just going to go and spend time with his family and friends and doing the things that he loves. And of course he has that luxury because he's been working for these companies and he's likely a millionaire. Good for him. Not so much for all of us that aren't millionaires and can't, and do have limited time. But the point of all of this, of that, is that yes, spend more time with your family, your friends, and doing the things that you love. But I think the trick to it, understanding that not everyone can do that, everyone can spend more time, is that when you are with people, when you are doing the things you love, be present. Pay attention. Don't be on your phones. Don't be thinking about what you're doing next. Don't be thinking about what you just did. Be present. Be in the moment. Like, focus on people. Focus on the experience. And of course, if you're paying attention, you're learning from every moment as well. And it's actually a shortcut to being present by turning your mind towards learning from every moment. Because when you do that, when you say, okay, I want to pick up everything that's going on here, suddenly you're present because you're paying attention. And when you are present, and I say this from experience, and specifically, I spent most of my life not present and living in the past or the future. And now, as a result of the work I've done over the last few years, I live every moment in the moment. Like I am here right now, I'm nowhere else. And it's created such a consistent bliss in my life. It's immeasurable, it's uncomparable. Like I would argue that I was in the belly of the beast over the last few years, and moving from my old life to my new life, and my presence has been a huge factor in that and developing it, and it's changed my life. So be present, spend time, and just enjoy it, and take what you can from it, because the world is going to be different, and enjoy it while we have it. Prepare financially. That is the other thing to consider here. We talked a lot about jobs, and there's obviously insecurity there, but economy crashes, extensions of wars, more wars, inflation, AI costs, prices are going up, more jobs are being lost. Start saving your money, like cash as well as investment. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, okay? This is me, this is how I think about it. I just want to be clear on that. But the way I see it, I see a stock market crash is inevitable. And not to say you shouldn't be investing. I don't know enough about it, but I'm worried about that and what that will do to the greater thing. But there's just like so many other fires happening right now. We are in for financial turmoil. Prepare yourself as best you can. That's all I can say on that. Just really think about it and prepare yourself. Understand where you have room, where your longevity, what you would do in a bad situation. Thinking about doing that extension right now, I wouldn't. Thinking about going on that big vacation. To be honest, okay, maybe I would do that because it's about the life experience and enjoying it while you can. But I would certainly be like, oh, you know. So just really think about it, especially as time goes on. Pay attention because it will surprise you at some point, and the more prepared you are, the better. Okay, what else? On to me, I guess. What am I doing personally? So I think philosophically, I live here in Buffalo. I love my home. I love this city. I love building Q here, and of course my ambition and what I'm working on now is expanding it outside of here with Qualia in Buffalo and then beyond, and in other ways as well. But with all the things I've talked about in mind, not just AI, but with potential conflicts ahead, and I'm prepared to leave. I'm prepared to pack a suitcase and leave. That's how I'm thinking about this and how some of these things could change. Not necessarily just with AI, but I'm trying to make myself more adaptable and prepared to deal with any eventuality. As you can see, I have a wonderful home that I live in, and my intention is to keep this home and to stay here and to use it as a base. But I don't know what's coming, and I want to be prepared for that. So financially, again, I'm been working a lot, excessively over the last year and a half. Pay for me, of course, to pay for Q, because Q cost me money to build, but also to try and just save a little bit of extra cash for that rainy day that I know is coming. And so I'm trying to do that more and more. It's difficult because it's the world and it's expensive, and but to that end, like, I'll also add that I'm a minimalist. I don't buy things unless I need to, and like the money I spend goes on things that are really creating value for me, and that might be health-wise, food-wise, the right food, technology which helps me, health experiences that are valuable, that make me a better person and give me those things that I am striving for and after in life. But I really try and minimize any outgoing costs. I generally don't go out and eat food. I cook everything fresh. And it's not a case of being frugal for the sake of being frugal. I'm generally just trying to give myself a backstop and to prepare myself. So there's that. The other thing, of course, as I've hounded on to all of you this episode is I do everything I can every moment of every day to make myself a better person, to stronger, wiser brain, body, spirit, and I do lots of things to make that true. And one of the things I've done the last 10, 20 years is I really thought about what are the things that help me be the best version of myself, and I kind of found like 10 plus of them, and I developed all of them as a way to ensure that I consistently had things that allowed me to improve and get better, even when I might not be able to have one or the other in a certain environment or context. So, and I'm consistently doing that. I'm consistently learning. I'm delving into my consciousness. It's a big topic of mine at the moment. You'll maybe get an episode of it at some point. I've changed my mind in the last 5 years. Like, I've completely changed my mind through a lot of work, deliberate work, and you can too. So I'm doing that, and my body is the healthiest and strongest it's ever been, as a result of the food I eat, the cleanliness of it, the physical exercise I do, the yoga, hiking, and so other stuff. Like, I look after myself as best as possible, again, to prepare myself for any eventuality. And also, I spent quite a few years of my life, really last 5-10 years, being as isolated as I could, because I was working on big problems for myself. I was trying to understand things and answer big questions. And I didn't feel comfortable being social often, and in different environments and contexts. I really struggled in different ways for different reasons. But I've spent years working on that and all the symptoms and all the individual pieces of that, as well as the broader questions and answers to that. And I found those, and I've got there. And I just I'm just completely focused on the cleanliness and the purity and the clarity of mind, body, and spirit. And I just spent years working on all of that. And I feel in a wonderful place now. But I'll also say I feel like I'm just getting started. You know, I'm 40. I'm 41 in a few days, actually, on the 9th of June. Not that I ever really considered that, but like I'm just getting started. I've got 40, 60 years left. I mean, I'm expecting to be a centurion. I'm certainly working on that. Again, that's another philosophy I'll offer for me, is that I don't just think about, I want to be fit now. I want to lose a bit of weight. I want to be this, that, or that, whatever. I'm thinking, in 60 years, I want to be on a hike. I want to be breathing well. I want to be functioning well in my mind. And so I train all my things consistently, especially my mind, consistently. Information, experiences, like meditation, mindfulness, huge. And there's lots of other ways you can do it as well. And anyone wants to talk about that a bit more, happy to talk about it. But really, I think this really boils down to, like, I am trying to retain and help my humanity flourish in every sense of the word. Every sense of the word. And one of the other pieces I didn't mention just now, actually, with the previous train of thought, was the social side of it and how I'd struggled. But now, I'm so enthusiastic and encouraging of spending time with people and having experiences, and I'm getting so much more joy out. I'm getting more joy out of literally every moment of every day at this point, but I'm really focusing on those. And specifically, a great example is in 2 weeks, next week on Monday, I fly to England. I'm going to be there for a couple of weeks, my first time in almost 3 years, and I've just got 2 weeks of really spending time with dear friends and family and just people I care about, and doing things that I would like to do with them. And so I'm doing as much of that as I can, and traveling as well. I expect myself to be more global again. I spent a lot of my life being global. I haven't for the last few years, but I expect that to change again in the coming years for different reasons. So while I'll be based here in Buffalo, I'm kind of expecting to do a lot more traveling in the coming years. What about Q? So what's my philosophy on AI with Q? Now, this is an interesting one, I would argue, because Q is human. It's Q. Everything for me with Q is all about retaining and helping our humanity flourish in every way possible, and through experience and through humans. So AI will not play a part in the front-facing, the public-facing, you-facing part of Q. Everything will remain human, and I'll give a couple of specific examples. My experiences I create are going to be in-person experiences which people can experience firsthand, not AI, right? It's all about community, people, and learning and growing with each other and from each other and through novel and fun experiences. Okay. Second thing is Q Anytime. Okay. There's apps all over the place. AI is in everything. Q Anytime is a very simple, almost like it feels very retro app in its structure. Once you're logged in, you have one screen, and you have 3 choices on that screen. It says what topic you want to pick, how many people you want to talk to, and how long you want to talk for, and you press connect, and then you're on a video call with people. It's that simple. There's no AI in there tracking information or data. And on that note, by the way, like I don't intend to track data from that, at least not right now. That's not my intention. I don't see the value in that, because the money's not driving me in that sense. Like I want to create these experiences for people. I want to help people develop these skills through experience, and this is one of the best ways. So the point of that is that Q Anytime, as I see it evolve, it will just be that. Like, I won't be evolving into new. I will keep it as retro and simple as possible, because I want to keep it as human as possible, especially for the reasons I've just talked about, but also because I believe that very quickly, as AI proliferates, People are going to be craving pure human experiences more and more and more and more. And that is what Q is about, is human experiences. So when it comes to AI, very little, in fact none in the front sense. That's my ambition there. Of course, I use it to help me advance the work of Q, right? I use Claude specifically, I mentioned that earlier, for the reasons I mentioned earlier, but I use it to help me code, to code Q anytime, which is just phenomenal. I use it to help me research things, to be an assistant, to organize certain things for me, to edit things for me if I just want things tidied up, right? Or give me feedback on something. There's so many ways in which I already use it and will continue to evolve how I use it. And I would encourage any of you to do the same. I've talked a lot about the scariness of AI and all the dangers and problems that are on the horizon. But it is also a phenomenal advantage. And the sooner you learn it and sooner you start taking advantage of it, the better. I would argue I'm pretty slow on the uptake of it. I am very traditional. I like to do things in my mind and do things myself. But I understand that the speed and capabilities of which I can have with AI is phenomenal. And I would argue there's no way I would be this far with Q without the support of AI helping me iterate things. So I will be using it, absolutely. But when it comes to the Q experiences and the Quniverse, that it will not be the experience. It will be very much focused on the human side of it. So no AI here, and I believe that will become more and more important as time goes on. Okay, what else? I think that's it. We're at the end, and I don't know how long this has been, but I can guarantee it's the longest episode I've ever done, and there's a lot packed in here. But I really hope you've picked up a few things that are helpful. I'm an optimist. I think you will probably have gathered that at this point. I do believe there are better days ahead. But two things. One is there will be a lot of hard before the good. We are about to go through some difficult stuff, but I do believe we can get to the other side. But it takes work, and as individuals and as a species, and any way you can support yourself in that and others around you, highly encourage you and be optimistic about that, because the second thing from that is that optimism without action is just hope. And to hope that this is all going to work out is not good enough. It's not going to work, because there are people that are actively pushing back against that hope, right? They're doing these jobs that's not going to be the outcome. So I'm optimistic, but I'm taking action. As on a personal level with Q, on a societal level, I'm trying to change the global consciousness here. So I'm optimistic, but I'm particularly optimistic because I wake up every day and I know when I get up, I'm going to be doing everything I can to further my mission and help myself and help you and help others be more prepared for this moment, for the future, and have a more enjoyable life along the way. I think, let me finish on this. I think the moment right now, here's what this is. We need to retain our humanity. We are in danger of losing it, and not just because of AI, but hugely because of AI. But we're in danger of losing it in the coming years ahead, and well, we can't. We can't lose that. It's us, and if we lose that, then we essentially lose everything. So that's what I'm trying to do. I want to retain our humanity and help it flourish in the new world. The second thing is that whatever the future holds, we will always be better together. There is no doubt. There's no question about this. This has been proven again and again and again. And we are creating a being that is stronger, smarter, wiser, and more powerful than us. If we are not together, we will succumb to its power. Do not take this lightly. This is very serious. And the sooner you become aware, the sooner you start working on the things that are going to help you thrive in the future, well, the better chance you have at doing so. So, look, this wasn't my normal tone, but I hope you can understand why, and I really hope this has been helpful. And I'll say that if this has been helpful to you, if there's anything you've taken from this, considering the importance of this topic, how it affects literally everyone on this planet, please share this episode. Please, please, please share this episode, because I know there are so many people that will benefit from hearing this. All right. Well, thank you. I wish you all well. I will be in England next week, as I say. I will probably document my journey a little bit more and be a bit more prevalent on Instagram. If you don't follow us there, go to join.q on Instagram. And I'm also on LinkedIn if you want to find me there. And if you're watching this, well, you know our YouTube is here. So thank you all. Big love, and, you know, pay attention. Learn from every moment and you'll be fine. Goodbye.